directly to my right is the co-host of UFC Tonight on Fox Sports 1, and along with Karen Bryant was doing, I guess, the studio coverage of the Mayweather-McGregor quartet around the world in 4 days. Yes. A tour. Good to see you, Kenny Florian. How are you?
Thanks for having me, man.
So, what do we make of what we saw in the 4 days between those two gentlemen, if you will, going at it against each other?
Well, things got a little crazy, obviously, but, this is why this fight got put together. It's kind of a fun fight. It's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
It is that.
And you kind of have to see it like that. You get the two guys, the best representing their respective sport. Of course, Conor going over into Floyd's world. But, it's remarkable. When I look back on my career and I go, geez, when I was fighting, I was making just a few $1,000s a fight, and here we are. Conor McGregor is going to fight the best boxer of our generation for over $100 million. And when you look at it on those terms, when you see where mixed martial arts, the UFC was and where they are now, and the fact that Floyd came out of retirement for one guy who wasn't even a boxer, it's insane what Conor McGregor has been able to accomplish.
Well, there is no questioning the popularity of UFC and MMA. There is no doubt. You see it and how much it gets talked about. We see it whenever we have a guest like you on the show in terms of how many times a video is viewed or retweeted, etc. So do you think that McGregor can create a cottage industry of MMA fighters taking on actual traditional boxers if he somehow gets past Floyd Mayweather? Can he be the George Washington, if you will, of this?
Even if he goes out and knocks him out, I still don't think there's a strong possibility that we're going to see more of these fights. I think Conor McGregor is kind of like the UFC's unicorn, and maybe sports unicorn, where he's the only guy who could really make something like this happen. It's my opinion. I think that he's an amazing mixed martial arts fighter. Obviously, this is his first foray into professional boxing. But the reason this fight got put together is because of his popularity, because of his ability to hype a fight. And there's just very few people who can do that like Conor McGregor.
Well, and I'm with Kenny Florian of FS1 joining me here. But his popularity took another level when he told UFC to stick it, right? When he said, thanks for the cheese,
right,
and I'm out, right?
Yes.
I mean, he went up a different level when that happened.
Yeah.
So he did that. Now he's going to fight in a square ring. How does he go back to UFC, win or lose, come December, right? Isn't that what everyone's expecting from him to have his next fight?
That's what he's saying as of right now.
Right.
Yeah, listen, I think a lot of people are saying, he's going to make this $100 million payday. There's no way he goes back to the UFC. But I think that he's trying this because he knows he's going to make a lot of money. I actually think he believes he's going to win this fight. That's just the way Conor operates. I really do. However, I think he still has more to prove in mixed martial arts. I think there's still a couple fights, huge fights out there for him where he can make. He's been making, Floyd was saying he's making $3 million a fight. He's making, over $10 million a fight for in the UFC.
For Dana White?
Yeah,
okay.
In the UFC. And I think that people don't really get that. That's the level where Conor's at. No one else is making that, but Conor is.
Can others get to that point, do you think?
I think this is what's cool about Conor McGregor is that you realize, oh, wow, it is possible. It is possible to make that money. And I think that after this fight against Floyd, it'd be hard for him to turn down a mixed martial arts fight, something he does best, and say, no, I don't need $15 million. I'm good.
See, now this is what I love. This is what I love about Conor McGregor. Okay, he makes me laugh from time to time, and he seems like he's straight out of a Guy Ritchie movie. Okay, right. But his story is really because certainly what I do for a living with the NFL Network is rip the helmet off of guys and tell their stories. In a way that you don't know, that you just see a guy who's screaming and yelling during the third quarter of a game. You don't know what his journey was and how long he's worked there and what he does off the field with his family or community. I love those stories. I get into it.
Sure.
So that's Conor McGregor's story, basically going from the back of a car to somebody who cracked the code at the UFC to start making, as you say, 8 figures per fight. Now has got 9 figures. That's a story I love. I don't like the guy who is saying stuff like this into a live microphone, this stupid crap with him and Floyd Mayweather going back and forth. Is anybody from the UFC or Showtime been wringing their hands over what we saw over those 4 days?
I mean, yeah, it got crazy. You know, Conor McGregor, I think around 4 years ago, was, you know, collecting food stamps in Ireland,
right.
Legitimately. And now you see where the level he's at, and, you know, kind of playing the same tune that Floyd Mayweather played for a long time, just kind of turning it up to 11,
but why?
If you will.
Why?
I think he realized that was something that people attached themselves to, whether they hated it or they loved it. Conor has just taken it to another level, you know, and I think a lot of people want to see him get knocked out or want to see him lose. This is a weird thing, though, because both Floyd and Conor are kind of playing the bad guy, which is a little strange. But I don't know. I mean, whatever it is, it's working for him. You know, people want to see this guy fight, and he's just I don't know.
Nobody's concerned that they turned anybody off over those 4 days. I mean, I understand it's a nasty sport.
Sure.
It's a vicious sport but that's when the gloves touch.
Right.
Right. And I understand that. Like, did nobody in between New York and Los Angeles and Toronto and New York and certainly going across the Atlantic say, hey guys, what are you doing? Like, let's tone it down a little bit. Like, nobody say that.
I think there's like an energy going on worldwide where things are getting. I mean, look at the political discussion that's happening right now. It's gone. It's just complete chaos, and I think it's just spreading over into everything else. And whatever it is, it's resonating with people, good or bad. It's getting a reaction, and I think Conor has realized that. He's kind of taking it up a level, and yeah, it was ugly at times. There's no doubt about it. You know what was said between Floyd and Conor, but you know these guys are fighters at the end of the day. These are two guys that are going in there to do damage on each other. So you can't expect them to, you know, be so civil, I guess.
So is that your way of telling me to toughen up, Snowflake? Is that what just happened? Kenny
No, I mean maybe slightly, a little bit.
Kenny Florian of FS1, again, UFC tonight on Fox Sports 1, joining me here on the show. Let's talk about what's going to happen. What do you think? I mean, the one thing that I just can't get past is when you just look at the length of McGregor's fights in his career, 2/3 of them lasted fewer than the number of minutes one single round of boxing is. How can he against Mayweather survive?
Yeah, and I would say like over 66% of those fights, he actually said exactly what he was going to do. He said, I'm going to knock you out in this round with this punch in this way. That's why they call him Mystic Mac. Now, against Floyd, I still think that Conor McGregor believes he's going to win, and this press tour was really important for me to see what kind of mental warfare was going to go on between these two. Can Conor get inside the head of Floyd Mayweather like he has for a lot of other great champions in the UFC to the point where they get overly emotional and do something stupid in a fight? I was waiting for that moment to see if Floyd was really rattled. I didn't see it. If I'm being honest, I just didn't see it. I think there were little moments back and forth between those two where they were able to rattle each other, but not enough where he's going to get Floyd off of his game. And if that's the case, then it's Floyd's world. Floyd's going to do what he's done so many times before. Despite being 40 years old, he still has speed. Power has never been his thing. He's never, he won't get into the pocket and start trading with you. That's just not his style. He's a master of defense, but he's a guy who can do it all. He can fight going backwards. He can fight going forwards. He'll hit you in tight. He'll hit you from far away. He will do whatever it takes to get the win. And I think if Conor's able to get a couple rounds, steal a couple rounds from Floyd Mayweather and go the distance, I think that's an achievement in and of itself.
So for McGregor to win this, he needs to knock him out.
That's the only way. I don't
catch him with that one punch.
There's no way he goes the distance and gets the win. He realized that. He's already saying he's going to knock him out within 4 rounds, and I think that's the best approach. He's got to go berserker mode in a lot of ways.
I like that. What do you make of the news that former welterweight champ Jesse Vargas said that McGregor's already been knocked out in sparring? What do you make of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell. Sometimes people will jump on a story and say something just so they can get press. I don't know if there's any validity to that or how he would know that. As far as I know, I haven't heard an explanation of why he knows that. Maybe he said, the boxing world's a small world. So what? I don't know if that's true. And if that is the case, you know what? A lot of pro boxers, a lot of guys, I'm sure Floyd included, in preparations for their fight, has been caught or has been knocked down or knocked out. I still don't believe it, though. Yeah, I still don't believe it. I know, we heard stories of Tyson getting knocked out before a few of his fights. It happens. You're preparing for a fight, and you're not always in great shape to start a camp, but I still don't believe that story from Vargas.
It's interesting. It was just maybe at this point last year or about 18 months ago, the conversation is maybe Ronda Rousey should fight Mayweather.
I know.
No, seriously, just let's take the biggest star that UFC has to offer and stick that person in the ring, and that person was Ronda Rousey.
Yeah. Yeah, that obviously doesn't make sense, but there was talk of it at one point. It's really crazy. It is. It's ridiculous.
So I guess now that's why I think it's important for McGregor to show up and perform well.
Yeah.
That the UFC would be able to continue to keep sending somebody against whoever everybody thinks the best fighter is in the square ring.
Right.
Is that something the UFC would be into, though? Or are they just like, let's one off, or let's see how much money it makes with Showtime?
I think they want to see both things. I think this is going to be a one-off. It's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime thing that they're trying. And, yeah, I'm sure they're very curious to see. And the other thing is they're smart in a lot of ways because win or lose, a lot of people are going to look at Conor McGregor and go, well, this isn't his sport. I'd like to see what he can do in the octagon. And I'm sure he's going to bring in a lot of fans for his next fight, or at least bring other fans into the sport. So I think it's a good thing for the sport.
So who else? Who's the person in UFC who would be able to make? It takes two to tango.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to just see McGregor beat the crap out of no names in the octagon. Who are those people that can make this?
Well, the big money fights that just happened was obviously his fights against Nate Diaz. I think they would probably complete a trilogy. They fought twice at 170 pounds. And I imagine that Conor would probably put his belt on the line to fight Nate Diaz for a third fight. And George St. Pierre recently came back out of retirement. Huge name. I think that's a fight that they wanted to put together before. And I think it's a fight they would probably try to put together again. That would be potentially, the biggest fight in UFC history, George St. Pierre and Conor McGregor.
So if McGregor could somehow wave a wand and say there's one aspect of MMA that would be allowed in this fight against Mayweather, which one would you think he would choose? Which one of the mixed martial arts? Which art would he choose?
Well, Joe Rogan made a good point. You add in any striking element, and Conor wins that fight. Let's say he threw in elbows. I think that would make a lot of sense.
Which one would I say? Which one do you think he would choose if he could only choose one?
I mean, myself, or if I was Conor, I would tell Conor to use kicks. Kick his legs, kick his head. I don't think Floyd would last very long.
What if he just did that anyway?
I thought about that.
8th round, he knows this is going to go to the cards at this point in time because he sees that Mayweather is just flat out not going to engage.
Right.
And he just knows he just
knocks him out and walks out.
Just flat out YOLO the moment, shoot his shot. What do you think?
Listen, if you look at what Conor did in the press conference, he obviously doesn't abide by rules. I mean, no one is safe, and you never know what he's going to do. It's possible, but I know that they do have something in the contract that if Conor does break the rules of boxing, that he would be fined a tremendous amount of money. So they already were ahead of that.
You wouldn't be able to buy any more of those pinstripe suits.
No.
Where'd he get that? Exactly. Where'd he get that?
I believe it's David August, who actually is based out here in Southern California, and they made a custom suit, and I think they're going into business together. You're gonna have Conor McGregor line.
Now hold on a minute.
Wow,
custom suit? You mean that's not off the rack?
That's right.
Because I would.
I know. I was looking for it.
How is that not off the rack? The FU pinstripe suit. It's truly
I need to get one of those.
I would love. I just don't know if I have the cojones, the Musburgers, to just show up on Thursday Night Football one night.
Week 1, Thursday night?
Well, no, it would have to be week 17 with last year my contract with no hope of re-signing.
Okay, so like a walkout.
It's pretty genius.
You'll know, by the way, tune in to Thursday Night Football late December. Do they make it in 54 Italian? Good to see you, Kenny Florian.
Thanks for having me.
Kenny Florian, please come back. Kenny Florian is here on the Rich Eisen Show. Jerome Bettis also still to come. Don't you dare move. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial.
The Rich Eisen Show. Weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you liked some of that, get some more of that on the Rich Eisen Show app. Follow all the information you see right here on the Rich Eisen Show.